Hi there, today I will laminate the inside. Thus I need a glass. And to try to avoid problem, I pre-cut the panels into short pieces, vertical to the boat length direction. Those short panels will be easier to get in place, with less risk for overstretching when pressed to follow the inside bend. Now I have cut all the 150 grams per square meter glass that I need. So I can start mixing epoxy. I thicken the epoxy with cotton fibers. And with silica. To make a filler that will fill small voids left after the sanding. And also pre-wet the surface ahead of the lamination. Later, I realized I should have done this into 2 steps instead. First, I should have used pure epoxy. Allow that to suck up and replace air between the narrow strip joinings. Then I should have added thickened epoxy to get more air out and to flatten the bigger gaps. I also do another mistake in this step that will show up later. Anyhow, happily unaware of the problems, I add the cloth and start pressing the cloth in place with brush strokes. I move over the cloth carefully to avoid stretching the cloth. Any overstretching will result in delamination and air bubbles. Here you can see that I almost get the cloth overstretched. And I have to compensate by moving the cloth back, working from the wetted edge with small brush strokes. And now the cloth falls in place. And I can finish the shaping of this panel. Now I can focus on wetting out the cloth. And then repeat the process with the next panel. It's a bit tricky to get the panel in the right place. Having done all the panels, I move over with a roller. This is to remove any air bubbles left in the cloth and to improve the contact between the cloth and the underlying wood. After about 2 hours, I do a check. I look for any air bubbles and add an encapsulating layer of epoxy. I use a rubber spatula to level out the encapsulating layer. Here I notice the first set of serious air bubbles and try to press them out with the spatula. As the epoxy has cured too much, I'm not successful. Instead, I try to release air through a small hole in the cloth. However, I will still need to cut most of the bubbles away after curing. There are at least 4 reasons why I got air bubbles this time. 1. I overstretched the cloth in some areas. 2. I did not allow enough time for the epoxy to replace air in the gaps between the strips. I should have used unthickened epoxy in the preparation step and then follow through with a layer of thickened epoxy before laying down the cloth. 3. I used silica with lumps in it to thicken the epoxy. Lumps is a clear sign of too much water in the silica. During our summer, the humidity is high and the silica had too much water in it. Water is not compatible with curing epoxy and will result in delamination. 4. My breathing mask condensated humidity in my exhale, and the drops went into the lamination when I worked over the hull. So now I have to correct the lamination by removing the bubbles. The cutting results in some sharp edges that needs to be sanded down. With a smooth transition, it will be easier to laminate the area. Now I prepare a small batch of epoxy for bubble lamination and thicken this with cotton fibers. I pre-treat the areas with thickened epoxy and thicken the epoxy further with more cotton fibers to get a really viscous epoxy for the still uneven areas. This mixture will better stay in place and reduce the risk of new bubbles. Now I can cut small pieces of cloth and put them over the areas that used to have air bubbles. Then I add somewhat thickened epoxy to wet out the cloth. And after about 2 hours I make up some more epoxy to encapsulate the glass. And I'm done with this step. The next time there will be a break from building, as you are welcome to join me on a sailing trip instead. See you then.